You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. In this hour, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Eric Pearl about the Reconnection. It continues. But Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, energy healing, and psychic readings. It's also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can jumpstart your intuition today by downloading their free 50-page guide. So let me tell you a little bit about Eric and get him on the air because he really is kind of funny and we could use a little levity on the show tonight. Eric Pearl, DC, founder of the Reconnection, has been featured in top media, including the Dr. Oz Show, the New York Times, and CNN. He has presented at leading venues, including the United Nations and Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden is sweet. His internationally best-selling book, The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself, is now in 39 languages, has been endorsed by such nobles as Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer. So the author of The Reconnection, Dr. Eric Pearl. Hey, Eric, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I am wonderful. It has been so long since you've been on the show, and I'm really glad to have you back.
Well, so am I. Glad to be here.
So what have you been doing? I mean, actually, I can tell you exactly how long it's been. Give me 1 second. Wow, a really long time. I knew it was long. 2008.
Wow.
So a really long time. So what have you been up to? Because I know, I see your emails, I see you go on Facebook, and it seems like you're always doing stuff. So what's the new thing that you're up to these days?
Well, the new thing is we have changed our programs. This is the first year of a brand new program where we've greatly expanded them beyond where they were. We used to teach reconnective healing in what we would call the level 1, level 2 weekend. Level 1 was Saturday, level 2 was Sunday, and we'd give a 3-hour presentation on Friday night before the weekend. We've now changed that. What we've done is we give our 3-hour presentation on Friday night, and we've taken level 1 that was on a Saturday, and we've expanded it, filled it with a lot more information and interaction with us, and made it for the full weekend of Saturday and Sunday, so you can learn reconnective healing on a personal level. And then for those people who are interested in learning it on a professional level, we've put that part, level 2, onto Monday and Tuesday, where we do many different things. You get much more table time, much more conversational interaction, question and answers. We've introduced new segments where we bring in volunteers from outside of the seminar, people who have no idea what to expect, so you get to see their responses. just happening the same way that you've already learned on people, with no anticipation, no expectations with it. We teach distance healing, where you contact people from all around the world by phone. Then you do a healing session with them. Then you call them back to see their experiences. We've introduced segments such as subtlety and nuance, where we learn fine ways of creating an infinite number of the most powerful chakras you've ever experienced that take us eons beyond those chakra charts of the 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 49, or 149 chakras that used to apply to energy healing. And by the time you complete this seminar, I can pretty much make you 2 promises, which are A, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that I can do, and B, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that any human being anywhere on this planet can do.
Does that come with a double your money back guarantee?
No, do you?
Well, no, I just
there you
thought
go.
I would throw it out there,
But no, that's all right. You want to leave $20 on the dresser. If we didn't like it, I'll change it for 40.
Anyway, so
now you're ready to go back and sing Janis Joplin instead, right?
Well, I could, but I won't, because I'm going to save the listeners' ears tonight. So what is, your book is The Reconnection. You teach reconnective healing. So what is the reconnection? What are we connecting to?
Well, with the reconnection and with reconnective healing, what we're doing is we are connecting to really our original fullness, what people talk about experiencing in between lifetimes, when we return to that light that we've all come from. When communication requires no language, when our existence is timeless, where everything, including our healings, tend to be fairly instantaneous and lifelong. So we just continue to evolve, and we're learning to manifest that, to live that and manifest it here on this physical plane, recognizing and experiencing what quantum physics has been telling us, that time is not only moving faster, but time is expanding as a balloon expands. Our existence inside this bubble or balloon of time in the 4-dimensional life here, and that bubble or balloon of time is expanding, and of course what happens to that balloon as it expands, as it becomes thinner and thinner, it begins to disappear. Time is disappearing, and time is an illusion. And this is what is manifest that has created so many studies. There are close to 24 international studies so far confirming reconnective healing. And the reason that science is so interested in doing these studies is because the healings tend to be fairly instantaneous, and they tend to be lifelong. So this is a new level of conscious existence.
And so in listening to what you're saying, it sounds like, and I'm putting my terminology with it,
Sure,
that we are really reconnecting to source, reconnecting to, I like to use God, but to the core of all of us?
Listen, I like the God word too. Call it God, call it love, call it the intelligence of the universe, call it Allah, call it Helen, for all that matters. This intelligence, God doesn't care what name we give it. We're the ones who go out and murder each other over not calling it by the name other people think we should. That's a real God-like, characteristic of us, don't you think? Yes, we are connecting to a source and learning to recognize, to stop looking at what makes us all separate and unique and special, and starting to become more centered beings that are willing instead to change the question to something far more empowering, which is what makes you and I the same. In other words, it's time to dig through our old T-shirt and underwear drawers and throw out everything that says, kiss me, I'm Jewish, kiss me, I'm Irish, kiss me, I'm Italian, kiss me, I'm black, kiss me, I'm Catholic, and replace them with T-shirts that say, kiss me, I am you. to recognize that when one child cries in one part of the planet, 100 children weep in another. When one child laughs, 1,000 children laugh, that we are that connected. And this level of compassion, of knowingness that we are all one, allows us to recognize who we are here on earth. Just as if you look at the rays of the sun. The rays of the sun as they come down here appear to be individual. And yet each ray, no matter how much you might choose to attempt to chop it up, every segment of it contains the hologram of the complete sun. Each ray of the sun is a representation of the sun here. Each of us are representations of God, love, and the universe here. And therefore, there can truly be no distinction. Just the illusion of separation, which serves as the hurdle for us to step over, so we grow in the discovery that it's been an illusion all along.
So what caused us to become disconnected in the first place?
Well, let's look at it this way. Every religion, every society, every culture seems to have a story of a disconnection taking place. In Judeo-Christianity, it's the story of the Garden of Eden. And then again, are our stories and very realistic illusions so that we can grow to recognize what the truth has been all along? So what has caused it becomes theory and speculation. And the reality of it itself becomes theory and speculation. But essentially, I would say that the cause of it, whether it is real or whether it is illusion, is so that we can grow from seeking to find our reconnection with it. We can grow from the search, because we will know all the answers all too soon. Once we leave this physical form, we'll know everything. Here, it is not about, it's simply not about the answers. What it is about is our seeking of the answers.
So it's the journey.
Yes, it's the journey, and it's the growth that comes from searching for the answers. Philosophy is not about the answers, is it? Philosophy is about the seeking of the answers and the willingness in the process to also say, I don't know. Because when we feel that we do know the answers on an absolute level, everything outside of those answers becomes wrong. All the answers fill a box of what we consider right, and anything outside of that box we consider wrong. And that's where we stop our growth. But when we're willing to not know, we say, I don't know, but I see this possibility over here. I don't know, but I can see that possibility over there and that one over there. And if I can put these potentials or these possibilities together, here I get one answer. If I put them together another way, I get another answer. And we start looking at what we perceive as better answers, yet in reality they're not answers at all. What they actually serve as are building blocks that allow us, once we put those together, to ask yet better questions.
I mean, I love the journey. I sometimes don't know where it's going to take me, but I just open myself up to what is being presented and the response that my heart has for what's being presented.
Well, this is part of how we're able to facilitate more comprehensive healings. It begins by us recognizing that it's not about the result, but it's about being in the process. Being in the process of healing, it means to recognize that as healing practitioners, our responsibility is to open a door. The other person's responsibility is to have the courage to step through that door. But we tend to place a lot of judgment in our healing sessions, and we judge them as good, bad, better, or worse, depending upon whether or not we've attained certain results that we in our limited human conscious educated mind have placed upon the healing as the determining factors of whether it's worked or whether it hasn't worked. When in reality, opening the door gives so much more freedom. Trying to create a certain result keeps us in limited particle form. Yet the most opportunity is presented for us when we are in light wave form. So picture, for example, a beautiful, swanky New York apartment building on Central Park. And there, in the winter, is a very well-dressed doorman. And a nice appearing couple walks up to the door. The doorman does what? He opens the door. That's his job. Now, what if they stop, they talk, and they decide not to walk in? Does he grab them and shove them through the door? Of course not. He closes the door. Was it a good session for him? Absolutely. The door opened. It was precisely what was to be. They might come back 2 or 3 more times before they walk in. They might come back planning to walk in, have an argument before one leaves and one walks in. But what is the responsibility of the doorman? Exactly the same thing, to open the door fully. When we can learn to recognize that when we are in the process of opening the door through facilitating a healing, we no longer misplace our attention on what result came about. But we learn to recognize that the healing might come in the form they anticipate, and the healing may very well come in another form, one that they haven't dreamed of, one that the universe has designed specifically for them.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting point, and one that anyone that goes to get a healing should have an awareness of. And I actually, have taken, a number of different healing classes and read I don't know how many gajillion books, and they never make that point that the healee needs to be open to receiving whatever healing they're going to get. I mean, many times, the client will come in and it's like they have this issue and they expect you to somehow wave a wand and fix it in one session. And it's like, really?
Because they are symptom focused instead of process focused. Symptom focus is not about healing. It's about treatment. It's about therapy. It's about cures. But healing pays no attention to the symptom at all. Healing's focus is to optimize the person's ability to return to their optimal state of balance. And in that optimal state of balance, their imbalances fall away. Now, their imbalances may take multiple different forms. There are often physical health problems. There are also problems that are mental, emotional, spiritual by some standards. There also may be relationship difficulties or career challenges. But when you operate at your highest level of balance, these densities, these imbalances fall away. Another way of viewing this is 6 studies so far. 6 independent international studies have confirmed that once you interact with the reconnective healing spectrum, this is very different than energy healing techniques such as Reiki, Jiragen, Qin, Qigong, Mahjong, Beijing, Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, mattress this, quantum that. Once we let go of technique, we access a more comprehensive spectrum of energy, light, and information. And once we interact with that, it actually restructures, according to science, or what I like to say is, it reconnects our very DNA. It restructures it and heals it from scientifically induced damage and from pre-existing damage. And these studies have demonstrated that it does some very fascinating things with the light that we emit. There was a time where we were just hopeful or just believed on a spiritual level that we were light. But we know today from the work of Dr. Fritz Albert Popp in Germany and others that we do emit light. The DNA in each of our cells emits specific levels of light. When our health is diminishing, that light is measurably dimming. When our health is coming back up, that light is coming back up. And the reconnective healing frequencies not only raises our light levels, but it makes it more what science calls coherent, or what you could look at as more harmonic. So we vibrate in sync with one another at a higher level. And you could say we entrain to one another. Now, what's entrainment? Well, imagine a tuning fork. If you take a tuning fork and hit it against your hand, it begins to vibrate at a certain tone. If you hold a still tuning fork next to it, it picks up that vibration. It entrains with the vibration of the first one, and they match. We see entrainment all the time in life. The old watchmakers who made those clocks with pendulums, after a while, all the pendulums would start swinging at the same rate. That was entrainment. Women who work in close office spaces, often their menstrual cycles go on to the same cycle. That's entrainment. What happens with the reconnective healing frequencies is we produce a higher, more harmonic level of light, and then that practitioner who is able to do that can allow that light, the other person, to entrain to that higher level of light, where the densities, the darknesses, fall away because they have nothing left to hold on to, and the person returns to their own light balance, their own optimal vibration. And if we get nothing else from this whole communication, let's get these next two statements, which are A, healing is just that simple, and B, anything more complicated than that, wands, crystals, toys, muscle testing, techniques, fear-based rituals, and protections, anything more complicated than that is designed to sell us something. And the main thing that it's selling us isn't just the object or the technique or the protection or the healing toy, but what it's selling us on basically is the fear that we are less than abundantly enough. Now, we are here to learn that we are more than abundantly enough. So we cannot berate the people who sell us on these fears as if they're doing something that's bad or as if they're bad people. They're not. When we all leave this body, we return to that light where we come from. We will see these people who have taken our money to sell us on fear and taken our sense and based it on an external power which is transient at best, where we have to learn to regain our internal power, which is eternal. And we will see these people and we will embrace them, love them, and thank them for doing their job so beautifully, because their role that they're playing is not a mistake. No one's role in life is a mistake. The role that they are playing is to introduce us to consistently higher levels of fear until we get to the point, and so we can get to the point that we recognize that we don't have to live in fear, that living in fear is an artificial state for us. And that's where we recognize the love essence that we are, because we view love and fear from a limited. We view them as opposites, which they are. However, we view them as opposites that are unrelated, which they are not. Because what really is fear except the fear of not being loved? Therefore, what really is fear except the fear of not being loved? And therefore, since our true essence is love, what really is fear except the fear of not existing in the first place?
Well, you know, sometimes it's okay to not want to exist for a while.
Yes, that's true, but that's why we have television.
That's right. And the internet.
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like, I mean, this was a little while ago, but it brought up a couple of other questions for me.
Uh-huh.
What you're saying when you're doing a healing session is, when I am in my highest place, I can help you to get to your higher place. Would that be a true statement?
Yes, without some of the dependency that we would read into that statement. In other words, once we learn to access the reconnective healing spectrum, it doesn't really matter so much what state we walk into it from. Once we access it, it tends to return us to an exceedingly high vibrational state that a lot of the studies say brings us to a greater level of calm and yet simultaneous awareness than people are able to access. Many people, even if they are masters and grandmasters, decades in meditation techniques for.
Uh-oh. I think you just cut out on me, Eric.
Once I am there. Can you hear me?
You're back.
Oh, did I leave?
You did. It was the aliens.
Yeah, well.
Were you experiencing any missing time? You know, it's been 3 hours here that we've been waiting for you to come back.
Where did I drop off?
It was just part of us. You were talking and then you just dropped off. So it's all good. After the first hour, trust me, it's all good. We're just going to move along to my kind of second part question. So I go and I get some energy work done, some reconnective healing work done. And now I have good mojo, you know, because I've had this work done. But then I have to go back to work or I have to go back home and the energy there is just really bad. You know, if I'm being affected by resonance from my healer, what is the impact of being in bad energy resonance, taking our energy back down to where we just got it moved out of?
You go from being at effect to being at cause. Your choice is always to be a reflection of the world around you, or to vibrate at a level at which that the world around you decides to be a reflection of who you are.
Okay, now there was a good question in the chat room. Let me just scroll up because I don't want to not ask this. And this is from Jen. And the question is your healing more a psychological healing or will it heal someone more on a chemical level? And actually, I did have a note. You made some comment that said scientifically induced damage, which I'm not 100%. I think I know what you're talking about there. You know, so things that are not necessarily organic in nature. Well,
right. What I meant was a number of the DNA studies that they did, both with human and plant DNA, where the scientists, either through shock or high levels of heat, took a relatively healthy DNA and damaged it so that it uncoiled. And the reconnective healing frequencies sped up the healing or the recoiling dramatically faster than energy healing techniques, many of which actually slowed it down to a step. And reconnective healing was the only approach that not only allowed the DNA to come back to its healed state from the scientifically induced damage, but it also healed damage that was pre-existing in the DNA before the scientists induced the intended damage. Do you follow that?
I mean, I do follow that.
So reconnective healing has nothing to do with faith, hope, anticipation, belief, hypnosis, positive thinking, positive visualization, neurolinguistic programming, tap, 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 reinforcement techniques of any kind. What happens is, well, remember in the beginning, reconnective healing, my patients were coming in to see me as a chiropractor, and I thought I was one. So you couldn't have double-blinded a study a whole lot better than that. No anticipation, expectation, etc. Later on, when people heard about the healings, they started coming in from halfway around the world. And very often I'd walk into the healing room ready to meet a new client or patient. He'd be sitting there with his arms folded over his chest, looking rather angry, with a tone of voice that was less than pleasant, saying, I don't believe in this, and I don't want to be here, and I wouldn't be here if my wife or best friend didn't make me come. And I would say, well, look, you took a week off from work, you flew in from Australia, for example, you're in Los Angeles for a whole week staying at a nice hotel, doing lots of things. Believe it or not, worse things do happen to some people. So why don't you just say to yourself, maybe this is ridiculous and maybe it isn't, but whatever it is, it's a rare opportunity to lie down and rest my eyes for 30 minutes in the middle of the day, so shut up and take it. And these people would have the healings. If anyone didn't have the healing, it was not the person who didn't believe in it. It was the person who believed in it too much. It was the person who came in and said, I know this works, it has to work, I've read every book ever written on healing, I'm sleeping with them underneath my bed, I've got my crystals set up in my bed sheets, and I'm wearing them wrapped around me with appropriate chakra-colored threads that I've strung them on. I'm only turning in clockwise circles this month from full moon to full moon, and by the way, this month is a blue moon, so I get to moon everyone an extra time. My family's praying for me now. Quick, hurry up and heal me. These people were in such a needy state, a state of neediness, of attachment, that their attachment itself became the constriction, became the limitation of what they allowed themselves to receive and to move through them. But you see, the person who doesn't believe in it in the first place, well, it's sort of hard to become attached to something if you don't even believe that it exists. And so the healings simply manifested. The best way I feel, and I have discovered, to allow these healings to take place is not to intensely believe in them, and maybe not to challengingly disbelieve in them, but to be in whatever state you are and to decide that what you'd like to do is say, maybe it's real, maybe it isn't. Let me witness and observe. And in the state of neutral observation, becoming the witness and the witnessed, the seer and the seen, the observer and the observed, we find we often receive gifts and benefits we haven't even dreamed of.
But that's so cool versus having people have these expectations of what they should or shouldn't get. So you mentioned the people who come with no hope, or little hope of anything happen, and they experience benefit. And then there are the people that have very clear idea of what they want to achieve that maybe don't get that much benefit. Are there other people that kind of fall into that category that
most everyone does? It's a rarity that someone will limit it. But all my point was, if that there is any way to limit it, it's from us being too attached to it. That becomes the limitation. Most people, I teach the practitioners, I've trained close to 100,000 people around the world so far.
Wow.
And when I teach these practitioners how to do the work, one of the first things I teach them is when your person comes in to have a healing session, say to them, listen, lie down, relax, let go. Let go of your thoughts, your anticipations, your desires. Understand and trust that God, love, and the intelligence of the universe already knows why you're here. They know what you think you want. They know what you really want. They know what they have in mind for you. And if you could just enter into a state saying, I will be simply just as thrilled if I receive nothing that I have in mind as I will be if I receive something that I have in mind, then you will discover what the form the healing comes in. An example of this would be, I had a woman who drove 3,000 miles. She drove 3,000 miles across the U.S. because she had pain in one side of her face. And she had 2 healing sessions with me, not 1 but 2. The pain didn't leave. So she was thinking, well, it's not going to work, and she was leaving. And on her way out, she said, oh, but by the way, I forgot to tell you that when I was a little girl, 7, 8, 9 years old, and at this point, this woman was moving up close to 50 years old at that point. She said, when I was a little girl, 7, 8, 9 years old, I had a fever and an infection in one of my ears, and I lost the hearing in that ear. I don't think about it because it's part of my life. It's just my everyday existence. And I didn't mention it to you, but my hearing has returned. Now you can say, have the healing she expected. You could say she's lying there saying, I want this healing, I want this healing, I want this healing, I want the pain to go away in the side of my face. And you could say that it didn't work. It did work, but our responsibility sometimes is to step back 3 feet and look at the larger picture, find where that healing is. You know, some people may need their health challenge, their illness or their health challenge. They might need it to give love. Some beget love. Often we think people take these things on for their own lessons. But we don't often think about that. Maybe they also take them on as part of an agreement for the learning, for the lessons of those people close to them in their lives. Think about that you grow up with a bad relationship with one parent and a close one with another. And the one you've got the close relationship dies. And the other one, you develop a closer relationship. What makes you think it out of the realm of possibility that wasn't part of the plan and the contribution of that parent's choice, the one who you did have the close relationship with?
Well, and when talking about the healing in the general sense of the word, our bodies have a mind of their own. And so there's what you think you want to have happen, and then there's what your body and your soul and your psyche is willing to let go of, which can be two completely different things.
And we think of it as willing to let go of, and why isn't it willing to let go of what we want to let go of, instead of us saying, wait a minute, if it doesn't want to let go of this, maybe there's a bigger reason. Most likely that our soul understands, and that we are here in this physical form to learn to recognize and to discover. And that's part of our purpose here. And once we recognize it and discover it, that in itself may be the lesson, the whole purpose that we went through something.
Well, and sometimes, people get so microscopic about what's going on with themselves that they even need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture of why they're creating it in the first place.
And as practitioners, right, we need to step back and say, what am I trying to force here? Even though on the surface it sounds like it's coming from good intention, and it very well may be. Is it coming from the wisest and highest intention? When I force any attempt at a healing, except for to return a person to balance and let them return to their optimal healing as determined and orchestrated by the intelligence of the universe.
Exactly. Okay, so Jen has another question for us. And her question, and it seems an appropriate time to ask something like this. What is the first step to heal someone? Acceptance?
I think that type of a question is really geared towards people who are looking to access their own healing in their life when they're dealing with something. Because as a practitioner, let me see, what's the role of acceptance as a healing practitioner? I think accepting your role, that you are not there to impose your concept of what the change should be. Accepting that your role is to open a door might be that. I think that there isn't a first step that way towards healing. I think that the healing comes from interacting with a more comprehensive healing spectrum and returning to a state of light, recognizing that there is a bigger picture and a universal intelligence that we are here to learn to vibrate with and as, and being willing to accept the gift in whatever form it takes, instead of trying to tell the universe what form our gift should come in.
But it sounds like, you were talking about the journey, and that's kind of, to me, kind of has this feeling of like a mental journey kind of thing. But it sounds like there's an openness to being who you are. And, And I'm going to say acceptance of, your place in the world.
Acceptance is always a beautiful place to be in. Because in acceptance of us, we might also...
Hey, Eric,
yes?
You might look at your mic because your volume just went way down.
My volume went way down. All right, did my volume come way up?
You're much better than you just were.
Okay, good. Acceptance of where we are might be the first step into acceptance of what gift we receive. It's sort of the difference between being excited at the surprises of the gifts that we receive on Christmas compared to what we think we'll gain out of telling everybody exactly what to give us for Christmas. And that sounds good because we might get what we want or what we think that we want. But we might discover in that lack of acceptance has not brought us what we wanted because it didn't bring the excitement of opening the surprises, nor did it bring the pleasure to the giver. And part of the beauty of receiving the gift is seeing the pleasure and the excitement that it brings to the gift giver who has selected the gift for us.
Well, and sometimes when you don't identify your list of things that you want and you just get these random gifts, sometimes you get something that you never would think to get yourself. And it might open a door that was, I don't want to say closed, but that you hadn't even thought to walk through.
Right.
Anyway.
No.
Christmas.
You're absolutely right. I wanted a diamond ring once. I just flashed on this story. You just brought this to me. I wanted a diamond ring from someone I was in a relationship with. And they gave me a ring that had a small emerald and a diamond chip. And they told me it was a diamond ring. I wasn't happy because it clearly was not a diamond ring. And they were not happy that I was not happy. And if I had to do it again, I realized that I would have looked for the beauty in the gift itself and gotten more out of it, out of making them happy than worrying whether I was made happy by an inanimate object. But of course, everything is a cycle.
But you were probably also expecting like a 5-carat diamond ring, and you just got this little chip, and it's like,
right.
What's with this little chip?
Right, but where was my mind on that one? Because to tell you the truth, I got a much bigger gift than if I'd gotten a 5-carat diamond, because I got the gift of recognizing how to give to others in the process of receiving that I never would have gotten if I were given what I thought that I wanted. What would have made me happy on a given level, would have made me feel happy, but would never have given me the gift of this lesson.
Why is it so hard for some people to receive?
You know, we all think that giving, that we're special because we just love to give. I just want to give all the time. I only want to give. And the point is that everyone wants to give. Receiving is an acquired skill. It's awkward to receive, and so we try to avoid it and hide that we are avoiding learning the skill under the statement of saying how much we love to give. Now, if we truly, truly, truly love to give so that we give all the time, we're not really giving. What we're doing is we are taking away the other person's ability to give in return, to give in exchange. All the great teachers from Jesus to whoever you can think of taught and understood the concept of giving and receiving, ebb and flow. The rains come down, the condensation and the rains come down from the clouds. They fill the rivers, the lakes, the streams, the tributaries, the ocean. They evaporate up. They continue in the process. The water washes over the rocks. It nourishes the soil, it cleans itself, and if we stop that ebb and flow process anywhere along the line, we create stagnation. In other words, it stinks. So part of our responsibility is to learn, it's true though, is to learn to give in the process. This is part of the reason that friendships end. When one friend lends money to another, the friendship often ends in an argument. The person who causes the argument is the person who owes the money because they feel out of their integrity not being able to pay their friend back, even if their friend simply is feeling gracious and won't allow them to pay them back. So they have to make their friend wrong and get their friend out of their life. Now, in the healing world, well, I'll tell you, there have been multiple studies where they have shown that patients of medical doctors who are the happiest and the healthiest are the ones who pay their bills regularly, in full, and on time. And those that don't feel out of integrity in the relationship with their doctors, so they have to make their doctors wrong. What's the only way they can make their doctors wrong? Well, that's to give up the healing they received. And if it works to this degree in the medical field where most healings are chemically forced or surgically induced, then understand how much greater of a role it plays energetically in the healing world. And so what happens is a lot of people in the healing field as practitioners they confuse giving and receiving, so they lock themselves into a consciousness of poverty. They find it's all right to accept money in all aspects of their life, but not for healings. And they don't listen to the people who come to them for healings who are saying, please let me pay you. And they have a healing, and the healing lasts for a little while. And some of the people come back because you've told them if it goes away, come back because you know that it might. Others are afraid to come back because you didn't let them pay them. When they come the second time, they say, please let me pay you, please let me pay you. But we don't. We cover our ears. And eventually, they stop coming to us. Now, they will have a healing from someone else to whom they've paid a lot of money, and you will hear about it from someone else who heard about it from someone else who heard about it from 3 other people. And they will hear that the healings that you give aren't working because you didn't stand in the courage of your own integrity and conviction to be in a fair financial exchange. But in reality, you have to overcome your poverty consciousness and fear and allow yourself to receive money as a responsibility to that person, because you have to give them the honor of being in fair exchange so they allow themselves to receive and accept the full value of what's going on. If you don't do that, they have to make you wrong and get you out of their lives, and the only way they can make you wrong is to give up the healing.
Okay, and so for everyone listening, I just want to be clear, he is not talking about my practice. I am very good at receiving payment. So no emails going, well, Dr. Eric said that you work for free. No.
No, you had better not. No, really, it's funny, but it takes a lot. I take a whole segment of time to teach new healing practitioners that they must be receiving fees for the healing sessions. It's their responsibility to the other person. If you don't want the money, you have to remind yourself you're not taking it for you, silly. You're taking it for them so that they allow themselves to accept and receive the full value of the gift that you have to offer as the practitioner.
I totally agree with you. I mean, in the training programs that I offer, it's a requirement that they have to charge. And I make it where it's like, for this thing that you should be charging a minimal, $60, I'm like $5, and for some of them, even taking the $5 is a challenge. It's like, really, it's only $5. You can't even buy a Starbucks for $5.
You know what? Is your healing session at least worth of one visit to a massage therapist? Is your healing session at least worth one visit to a physical therapist? A recent study published in a peer-reviewed journal from the University of Arizona has just shown that reconnective healing, 10 minutes, only 10 minutes of reconnective healing, is more than twice as effective as physical therapy in restoring range of motion to the limbs. I want you to know, think of what you're going to pay for a massage. Most massages range between about $50 and $150. In salons and fancy spas, they can run a lot more. Most visits to a physical therapist, you're going to pay at least $30, $45, if not more, sometimes as much as $80. You need to be charging, I agree with you, at first figure, on the low end, $60. I tell my people, you should charge somewhere between $60 to $120 a visit, because you're worth it and it allows them to receive that value. I said, if you're charging much less than $60, you're cheating them out of their ability to accept the full benefit of the gift that you are offering.
Well, and you're invalidating yourself and holding on to your I'm not worthy energy,
Precisely.
which,
Precisely.
in my opinion, makes it so that your healings aren't really that great because you're like too afraid to own what you have.
Well, look at it this way. Everything comes either from fear, lack, limitation, the illusion of separation, the illusion of darkness, the need for control or direction, judgment, and ego, or it comes from love, prosperity, light, oneness, unity, and abundance. You cannot stand in fear and facilitate healings that reside in love. You can't stand in fear, protecting yourself from this energy and that and the other, and facilitate healings that reside in love. You can't stand in lack and limitation, adding crystals and wands and healing toys to make yourself more, and facilitate healings that reside in you being more than abundantly enough and recognizing this. And you can't stand in a poverty consciousness and facilitate healings when healing is about you being in your abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the clock. We have about 5 more minutes. Well, there has to do the music thing at the end and all that good stuff.
Gotta have that.
Well, yeah. It has to be the whole ensemble, Eric. Something I don't think I've ever asked you, and we didn't cover, but how did you discover these frequencies in the first place? You worked as a chiropractor. I remember from our last conversation, you started having weird sensations happening when you were working on your clients. But how did you discover these frequencies?
Well, what happened was I went home one night, went to sleep. One night in my 12th year of practice, I was awakened a few hours later by a bright light. I opened my eyes to see what it was. It wasn't anything seemingly spiritual or metaphysical. It was just a lamp next to my bed. It had decided to turn itself on. Now, I had had that lamp for a good 10 years. It hadn't selected any other propitious occasion to self-ignite, but there it was. And my bedroom door was open, which was closed when I went to sleep, but I felt as if someone was in my house. So I got up, I grabbed a knife, an old can of pepper spray from a self-defense course I'd taken years ago, which was probably empty, but I thought it made me look intimidating. And I got my Doberman pinscher, and I walked through the house hunting to see who was there. I couldn't find anyone. I went back to sleep. That Monday when I went into my office, 7 of my patients told me that they felt someone in the rooms with us watching them while they were lying there on the tables. They felt multiple sets of hands resting on them, and they knew they couldn't have all been mine. They felt being tapped on the back, gently stroked in the arm, a hand comfortably resting on their forehead and on their feet. When I held my hands near them, it would cause their eyes to rapidly dart back and forth, fingers to involuntarily move, arms and legs to jump. When they opened their eyes, they told me they were seeing colors they'd never seen, smelling flowers they'd never smelled, and they started reporting healings, real healings. They were getting up out of wheelchairs, vision and hearing returning. Children with cerebral palsy or epilepsy were suddenly able to walk and run and play and speak normally, not have seizures any longer, not require their medications. Their parents would call, their doctors would call. They'd ask me what I had done. I said I didn't do anything and don't tell anybody. Of course, the more I said that, the more everyone started coming in asking for the same thing. And pretty soon people started asking me to teach this. And I said, you can't teach this. I'm standing there waving my hands in the air looking like an idiot. I said, you go outside and do it. Tell me what your neighbors have to say. Yet my patients would tell me that when they drove home from my office, they pulled up in front of their house, their automatic garage door started to open and close by itself before they hit the button to open it. They walked inside their house, their lamp and TV started turning itself off and on. They felt sensations in their hands. They would hold their hands near a relative in their family. The grandfather could walk after the stroke. The uncle or aunt regained their hearing. And that's when we began to find that once we interact with this new spectrum of healing, what science today calls the reconnective healing spectrum, that something changes within us that not only allows us to access our own healings, but once we learn to become familiar and comfortable in working with it, it allows us to facilitate healings for others. So that's why I teach the work. You know, the book is called The Reconnection.
I was just going to get to that because we need to wrap it up real quick here.
And the book, The Reconnection, is an international bestseller in 39 languages.
Perfect. Eric, this was so much fun to have you on.
Well,
Great conversation.
Let's do it. And if people want more information, the best place to go is TheReconnection.com. It's the website. You have to use the word the. TheReconnection.com. It's the same as the book, which is The Reconnection. Heal others, heal yourself.
Perfect. Eric, you have a wonderful night and a great weekend, and I look forward to having you back on the show. Find out what new stuff you got going on.
I would love that, and we're teaching seminars all around the world. I'm taking off for Mexico and giving presentations in Boston right now, and then in Stuttgart, Germany, and all sorts of things. So I look forward to seeing you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye. That's Dr. Eric Pearl. His book is The Reconnection. His webpage is www.thereconnection.com. And next week, we're going to be speaking with Jason Gregory about the science of humility. And so until then, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser to www.justenergyradio.com for more show information and to contact Dr. Rita.